My name is Nicole. I'm a producer for the Remembering Them podcast. The podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your host, Mark, Ryan, and Luke acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within the indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skeen, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Mianjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
Hello, Luke. Welcome back to the podcast.
Morning, mate. Thanks for having me.
Just you and I on this morning. Ryan is away, unavailable.
Do you know why?
Yeah, today, date of release is the 17th, Wednesday, the 17th of June here in Australia, which is actually World Croc Day. Not the footwear, focused on crocodile conservation, which Ryan is very passionate about. So he's off saving the crocs or visiting crocodiles.
Rolling around with them. Good on him.
Yeah,
I
good on
don't mind
Ryan.
that from him.
Happy World Croc Day, Ryan. Look, let's get into it. 3 clues for you today. As always, play along at home. Try and guess the city where our guest is from today. I'm pretty confident you would have heard of this city. Clue number 1. Shane Ryan's not here, actually. This is right in his wheelhouse. He's a big Pizza Hut guy. Clue number 1. Pizza Hut started in this city. It was named because the founders only had enough room on the sign for 8 letters. Do you know where Pizza Hut was founded?
Mate, he would know.
He would know.
Like that.
Loves his Pizza Hut, Ryan. Loves Pizza Hut. All you can eat specifically.
I don't even know what country it originated. I have no idea. Do you actually know?
I don't know the city. If I guessed, if I didn't have these clues in front of me, I had to guess, I would have said, it has to be America. I would have thought.
Surely.
Yeah. It's in America. Clue number 2. Let's move to that. Play along at home. Hopefully you've got it. Clue number 2. More than half the world's general aviation aircraft were once produced here. In fact, the city once had so many aircraft factories working at once that the city ran for 24 hours a day during World War II.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I thought these clues were all pretty cool.
I know the biggest. I think it's the biggest. I think it's Atlanta. Are we Georgia?
Oh, we're not in Atlanta, Georgia. Good guess, though. Third and final clue for you. This city is one of the few cities where you can see 44-foot tall Native American statue standing at the meeting of 2 rivers, known as the Keeper of the Plains.
Oh man, that's niche. That's niche. I get Mongolia vibes. I know we're not in Mongolia.
We're not in Mongolia. No. We are in. I'll let you in. I think Ryan. Usually, the States is more suited to Ryan, but so we're in Wichita, in Kansas, in the US. Yeah. So the brothers. Clue number 1: the brothers Dan and Frank Carney were the founders of Pizza Hut, and I thought that was really interesting that they came to that name because of the limited room on the sign. And the third clue, moving to the third clue around the Arkansas River and Little Arkansas River are the 2 rivers that meet in front of the Native American statue.
Unreal.
Yeah. So we are in Wichita today. Our guest is a self-employed wife and stepmom. She owns a spray tanning and jewelry boutique as well as a social media agency. She loves helping women feel confident and she enjoys traveling and time outdoors. Our guest today from Wichita in Kansas, Anna Hollowell. So welcome to the Remembering Them podcast officially. Anna, thank you very much for joining us all the way over from the States. Wichita, Kansas.
Wichita. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Thanks for sorting out the time difference. I know it can be a little bit tricky sometimes, so we're super grateful for you giving up your time and coming on the podcast. Let's just jump straight in. If you'd like to tell us who we're talking about today, your relationship to them, and unfortunately what happened to that loved one of yours.
Yeah, so I lost my dad in April of this year. His government name is David, but he was born and raised in a small town, the same small town I grew up in. And somewhere in his high school years, someone gave him the nickname of Pedro, and it stuck. And that's what he went by for the rest of his life. So we can call him Pedro here tonight. But yeah, that was my dad. So I have three siblings. It's my mom, my dad, my three siblings. We're all married. We all have kids now. So big, happy family. And unfortunately, my dad had prostate cancer. He was diagnosed in 2016 with stage 4 cancer with a 5-year life expectancy. And if you do some math, he put up a fight. So we got 9.5 years with him. He was able to see, a handful of more grandkids be born than he thought, and start school, play sports, all of that, which was really that was like the light of his life. So that definitely, I think, kept him pushing for a while. So it was a long journey. My mom actually had stage 3 breast cancer a few years before my dad's diagnosis. She is in remission, thankfully. So it was just kind of a long 10 plus years of, seeing my parents go through these battles. We lost my grandma to cancer as well during that time frame. So it was like this whole give and take of they were all taking care of each other, and it's just kind of like when my grandma passed, then it was like, okay, now mom and dad have to take care of each other. And so it definitely been a lot, definitely been a journey. I still remember when my parents came up to me when I was in college, my freshman year of college, when I was 19 years old, to tell me that she had breast cancer. So basically my whole adult life has been kind of watching my parents go through this. So definitely miss my dad greatly, but he was such an inspiration.
What sort of treatment, Anna, and did you, I guess, what was the mindset of the family, yourself and your mum and your siblings, given that time frame? Were you, I guess, planning for life around that time frame, and then you got the additional, 5 odd years, or was it really? And also your dad's mindset, Pedro, was he of the mindset of, no, I'm going to beat this? What was the whole mindset around his battle?
You know, my mom, she was always very adamant that she was going to beat it. So, which, so they both did a combination of holistic therapies and traditional Western medicine. So they both did chemo, radiation, surgeries. But on the flip side of that, they were also doing some more holistic modalities like, high dose vitamin C, like IV vitamin C, lots of natural supplements, lots of little woo woo things, if you will. My mom kind of went before around probably a little bit before my dad's diagnosis. There was a couple year, difference between the two. So probably a little bit before my dad got diagnosed, she kind of did a whole overhaul and went very like holistic, organic, raw with her diet, like got rid of all the toxic stuff. We kind of like have to joke with her a little bit about it. But it works. I mean, can't say it doesn't work, right? So yeah, she had a very good experience with that. We have a very good facility here in Wichita, actually. That's kind of a holistic treatment facility that's pretty world renowned. So that was definitely a privilege, and that's not lost on me that we had the ability to kind of get them some different kind of modalities as well. So I think definitely both. I would say both of them would say that their surgeries and chemo and radiation served a purpose as well. So yeah, my mom really had this mentality like she's gonna beat it. My dad, you know, men are stubborn. Dads are stubborn, right? So when he, sorry, when he first got diagnosed, And the doctor gave him this 5 year, in our mind, he never verbalized this, but in our mind, we thought he was going to be gone on that like 5 year, like I'm done, I'm out, just it's a mental thing, right? Like that's half the battle, in my opinion, is like your mindset around the whole thing too. So, he wound up, kind of just doing his treatments, and then I do think that the mixture of the holistic things just kind of kept him going, but I really think his family, his grandkids, I think we've really kept him going for a while because again, he really just did love and he loved his work too. I mean, he worked up until he got in hospice, and even when he was in hospice care, he was like, I gotta do some work. He was self-employed. He was an auctioneer. So, I think he just kind of had this at first, like we weren't sure where his mentality was, but as time progressed and we saw him just keep going and never give up and never stop working, we really realized like this man's in it to win it, right? And so, especially towards the end here, within the last few years, things have been really up and down. I mean, it was just really, really, there were several times, 2020, 2023, where we just thought it was like the end, the end. And we still to this day, we're like, how did he make it this long? Like, we have no idea. But, I just think he had this will to live. He didn't, I genuinely think he just didn't want to leave Earth. He loved his life. So I think that's really inspirational.
How has the last couple of months been for yourself, Anna, and the family? Given, I guess, you had those couple of close calls where you possibly thought that was the time, 2020, as you mentioned, and a couple of times after that. Were you almost? Do you feel like you were prepared in a way, and what has that time been like since his passing in April?
Yeah, so I think I thought I was prepared, and then you go through it and you realize nothing can ever prepare you for what it's really like to lose a parent. I will say, obviously, watching your parent wither away to cancer is like horrific. I would not wish it on my worst enemy. He was in hospice care from January to April, so over 3 months. And that was hard. It was really hard. I will say that, like, when things kind of started getting crazy, we all know what happened in 2020. So, when my dad started getting really sick around the time the pandemic hit, I wound up kind of like changing careers a little bit because I didn't feel, comfortable going back to the job that I had at the time for like risk management per se, being kind of like a caretaker and, knowing that I needed to be available to help him and my mom if I needed to. I didn't want to be, getting potentially sick or anything like that. So I wound up quitting the salon and spa manager job that I had at the time and started working for my then boyfriend, now husband's family business at a tax firm. So, that was kind of the first part. And honestly, a few years before that, I had lived out of state. So I wound up moving back home because I met my partner, but also because I had just been away from family so long. It got to a point where I was only coming home for weddings and funerals. And I was like, I've had enough. We lost, unfortunately, my last three grandparents within about 3 years of each other in the time that I was gone. So it was just my parents were getting older. They both had cancer. It was time for me to come home from California. So that's what I did. So I had kind of moved home and then I kind of switched careers. And then me and my husband, we decided we were like, our parents are not getting any younger. His dad had some health issues as well. And we decided to get married so that we could have all four of our parents there. And so, it has been this kind of journey of like, I'm not saying that I made decisions based on my dad's health, but in a way, like this whole journey has impacted, my entire life, obviously. And so, yeah, me and my husband got married and in 2022, and then unfortunately in 2023, we lost my husband's father very suddenly. And so that's a whole other level to, the grief and the story and seeing the dynamics and the duality of like the prolonged versus the sudden. Um, and, both having us now, we've both lost our dad, so it's this whole thing. But, I feel like I was grieving my dad for so long before he passed away. Like, you kind of knew the outcome, right? And even if it wasn't, even though you couldn't prepare for that, like you kind of, I think for a while, I almost maybe got numb to the fact, like I was just trying to protect my heart and my brain and my emotions and just kind of think of him like, oh, I'm just not going to have my dad much longer. So, I think I could try to prepare as much as possible, but like I said, there's really no preparing. And so when he went into hospice in January, he actually, because that was when we stopped all chemo, he was, over the last few years, he was on this daily chemo pill. And he had kind of gone to like IV chemo for a while and then back to the pill. And we're trying to figure out like what's working, the best for him. He was having some side effects from some of his treatments and stuff. And so when he decided that he was just done with the treatments and went into hospice care, he actually started feeling a little bit better for a while because he wasn't getting poked and prodded. And, he was like, for a while there, he even made a joke, like, probably it was probably about a month after being in hospice. So like a decent amount of time for like a hospice situation. Um, he was like, I wonder if people ever drop out of hospice. Like he was like, I'm ready to get back to work. And I'm like, Dad, like, and so he really did up until the end. He just had this, positive outlook and all of the things. And then, it kind of like progressed over, I would say again, the first month was pretty good. Second month was kind of like, like, where is this going? He's still up and moving and doing his thing. And he really, I think he didn't want to be taken care of too much. Like he was always really good at taking care of other people. I remember there was this time, the grandkids were over. We were all over at my parents' house, and one of my nephews came in crying because he fell and scabbed his knee or something, on a walk. And so he comes in crying. My dad shoots up. He could barely hold himself up. Like at this point, he was barely walking. He had to have the walker. Like we were pretty much like, okay, almost 24/7 care at this point. And he shot up and went straight in to go take care of his grandson. And it was just like, it was beautiful. But yeah, he really just kept pushing through, and fought it as long as he could. And, in my eyes, he won the battle. He really did. Like, I think cancer took a lot from him, but I don't think he lost his battle. I think he did a really brave battle and he did what he needed to do. So
yeah. You described, obviously he had this love and drive to be there for his grandkids and you obviously as his children as well. How would you describe Pedro to a complete stranger? I'm building this story up in my mind as an auctioneer and, stereotypically, loud and fill up a room and bright. How would you describe him, Anna?
So actually he was pretty soft spoken for the most part. I mean, he could use his voice in the auctions, but he really didn't like raise his voice. He was a pretty like, I would say like a strong presence. Like if dad was there, you knew he was there, but he was still soft spoken in a way. He was just kind, empathetic. Like he again had this just drive and hard work ethic, born and raised in a small town. My whole kind of family is all entrepreneurial, and I think we got that from him and he got that from his parents and grandparents. So his dad was a farmer, so just this whole nature of like hard work, humble, empathetic, like good people. So
What about physically? Did you look like your dad?
That's a good question. Well, I'm above ground. No, I'm just kidding. Because actually, I saw a reel today and it was like, when people say I look like my dad, but I'm not dead, like you gotta find humor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm all about Dead Dads
Yeah.
Club humor. You gotta cope somehow. So, and that was my dad's thing. He was funny. Like he was a funny guy. He always had a joke, a cheesy dad joke. But yeah, so he had this humor. But he was, I would say, I mean, growing up, I always thought he was this big, tall man. And then as I grew up, I'm like, you're actually not that tall. Like, but he was probably about 6 foot. Just it's hard to like describe my dad. I don't know why. I'm just like, it's just my dad. But well, I blurred my background so you guys can't see it. But yeah, he was just an average like small town guy. Had a mustache his whole life. Like that was his signature thing. He always wore glasses, and he always wore the same outfit every single day. So he wore pants would maybe change a little bit, but he would wear a white button-up shirt, sometimes long sleeves, but usually short sleeve. It had to have two pockets, one on each side, and on his um, left side, he would always have a ballpoint pen in his little thing. So it was a very like that's why I'm having trouble describing him because it's just like
He wore the
he
same
just
thing. Yeah,
always
he looked the same.
yeah
Is that
yeah.
how did he develop that look? Did he was his dad that way inclined? I guess as a farmer, always wore the same thing.
So my grandpa passed away. He was my first grandparent that I lost, and he passed away when I was 15. So that was like my first loss. So it's been a while. But he wore like similar things, but not like the same thing every day. Um, I don't know why my dad did that, honestly. I think it was just like to me, it was just like less decisions to make, probably. Like he was just like, this is just what I wear. He was kind of like a creature of habit, I would say. So,
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Takes the stress out of deciding what you're going to wear every day, and yeah, good on
yeah.
him. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I've heard, I mean, they say that about Steve Jobs, right? And that
yeah,
he always wore the same thing is because it was just he had too many other decisions to make in a day. And
yep, yep. Creature of habit. It makes sense. When I guess the whole period, Anna, for even the 5 years when you were given that initial time frame to the 10 years, did that change the way that firstly your dad, Pedro, did that change the way that he lived? Was he more intentional around things, and also for yourself and the family? Did that change how maybe it did subconsciously with, I guess getting married, yourself and your husband, and doing other things? Did that change the way that you? This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Hey Luke and Ryan, life gets heavy sometimes, especially when grief hits. For me, that weight often shows up as anxiety.
Yeah, it's not always one big thing. Sometimes it's just life piling up, work, relationships, trying to hold it all together. Suddenly, I'm anxious and don't know why.
Totally. I used to think anxiety meant panic attacks, but for me, it's more like overthinking every choice or feeling like I'm never doing enough.
And it can even hit on good days. Out of nowhere, I'm spiraling over things that haven't even happened yet.
It's easy to feel alone in it, but you're not.
That's why we're talking about our paid partner, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp connects you with credentialed therapists who can help manage anxiety and more.
Most people go to BetterHelp for anxiety, and 69% feel better after just 6 weeks.
Getting started is simple. Fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a therapist. If it's not a fit, you can switch at any time.
Their support team is super responsive, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, it's a platform you can count on.
So let BetterHelp help manage your anxiety so it doesn't manage you.
Click the link below or go to betterhelp.com/rememberingthem for 10% off your first month. That you approach life and him as well?
Yeah, for sure. So, growing up, my family, my mom was the breadwinner, so she worked really hard her whole life, and my dad worked really hard too, but the self-employed. So my dad was kind of there taking care of us more often as, as children. And so as we, sorry. My husband just got home, so the dogs are barking. Um, and so, yeah, when, growing up, I had my siblings. We were a big family, just like Ruckus, and didn't feel like super close, super emotional or anything like that. But it was a good upbringing, no complaints or anything. But I think definitely I will say that cancer radically changed my family. And I think, factoring in my mom's, my dad's, and my grandma's, I don't know if we would have experienced the same change overall if it was just one of them. But I think, once like I think a lot of the change happened with when my grandma kind of went through it, but definitely like when my mom got diagnosed, it feels like there was a huge dynamic shift. We kind of realized, life is short, we got to make these memories and all of the things. So I think it definitely has brought my family closer for sure. Again, we've all grown our families, we've all gotten married, so it's kind of like this, we're in an exciting time of our lives, and it was just, I'm glad my parents got to see all of that for all of us pretty much. um Obviously there's going to be more milestones and things that come up, but I think cancer definitely overall 100% changed my family's life. There's no denying that, because again, once you see the things you see and see your parents go through it and your grandma and, kind of helping with some of the things here and there, it changes your outlook on life for sure. For me personally, as someone, I was in my 20s at the time, and now I'm in my early 30s. Like, it's just, I think it's a lot to take in. My siblings are a little bit older, but within a 10-year time frame ish. So we're all like, my brother's 10 years older than me, exactly. So 43 to 33 is kind of our age range right now. And so, we've all definitely been impacted. We're a lot closer. Um, yeah, we don't have any, my family doesn't fight or anything like that now, like, which is funny because as a kid, like me and my sister, we'd get in, I mean, as siblings do growing up. But yeah, we just learned that life is short and life is precious, and you've got to hold on to the good times and work through the bad. And so definitely a lot of lessons learned along the way.
Speaking of lessons, and lessons that you learned from your dad, from I guess from this cancer battle, but also in life in general, what are some lessons that you learned from him?
I would say just, the power of hard work and kindness was huge for him. And he always had so many life lessons. And I think, I'm kind of at this point where I'm trying to like I might be a little numb still, like it's still
Of course.
fresh and raw in a sense, and so I'm kind of like, what lessons did he teach me? But he was always just, for me, like he was the best dad, because he would always, like, he just did dad things. Like, he would be there in 15 minutes if you ever needed him. So he was all about just being reliable, like a man of his word, having good character. He would always, if I was doing something that he didn't think was right, I remember actually a few years ago, this is a funny story. I own a business, so I'm a business owner, and so I have my business professional pages on social media, and then I have my personal Facebook page, which my dad was a friend on my Facebook page. And a few years ago, he sent me a text basically saying, like, you shouldn't cuss on your Facebook page because it looks bad as a business owner. And well, he's like, it looks bad no matter what, but like, especially as a business owner, you need to be aware of this. And it just, the way he said it hit me the wrong way, and I was mad. I was like, how dare you tell me what I post on my social media? And I was like, and times have changed, like, like, I'm not defending cussing on, like, as a business owner on social media, but I'm also not, I mean, like, I cuss a little bit. It is what it is, right? And so, and my dad, he would cuss now and again, not like a ton, but it wasn't like he was just so against cussing. It was just like the putting it out on Facebook where, everything is searchable, anyone can find you, which now in hindsight, I get it. I'm like, okay, but it rubbed me the wrong way. I was not happy. I blocked my dad on Facebook. A few years ago, and I texted my mom. I was like, I blocked dad on Facebook. He does not have a right, he does not have access to me. And so I don't even remember like what the question was. I think we were talking about like life lessons, but yeah, and I don't remember what exactly made me just like throw it under the bridge, but it was something with a health, with his health. I was like, okay, I either stay mad forever and I have this, I just don't talk to my dad and he goes downhill, or I just, you know,
Let it go.
let it go.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
let it go and I unblocked him on Facebook, and I'm so glad I did, and I'm so glad it was water under the bridge. We never really like talked about it. I never told him like, hey, that really, irked me, because it was just, I think I was just mad at the time, and then I was like, okay, I'm over it, and I let him see what I posted on Facebook, and he never mentioned it again. Like I do. I mean, I was aware of it once I unblocked him. I was like, okay, I don't want to give him a reason to like, but that was just, again, going back to his like just always caring about character, right? And just
Yep.
being a good person. And he didn't want, I think I think his concern was he didn't want me to lose business, And so it again just comes down to his character. And I think that's the best lesson he taught me, is just be a good freaking human.
Yeah, that's a nice way to tie it back. I think he was, looking out for you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and giving that lesson. And maybe the way he voiced it came across a bit wrong or harsh or whatever it was. But
I'm gonna blame the both. I'm gonna say it was stubbornness on your behalf, Anna, but it was also stubbornness from him.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was just thinking too. I was like, well, and it's just like dad and daughter, like youngest daughter, like we just always kind of in a way, not I mean, we just you butt heads. I mean, again, dads are stubborn, right? I feel like I mean, maybe people out there do have perfect relationships with their dads. I
That's
didn't.
not
No,
true.
like my siblings didn't, I'm sure. And it is what it is. That doesn't take away from, him being an incredible dad, or, the legacy that he left or anything. But it's like, we just butt heads. And like you said, we're both stubborn. And I wonder where I get that from.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a fun memory, regardless. Anna, and speaking of memories, do you have any favorite stories or memories of your dad that spring to mind? They don't have to be huge or lavish or holidays or anything like that. It might be something he used to always do that reminds you of him.
Yeah, so there's two. I do have a funny one I'll share. But me and my dad, we used to go to breakfast. Like that was our thing. He loved biscuits and gravy. And so it just, over the years, it just evolved. And actually, when I was in high school, like we would go to IHOP, which was like a 24/7 breakfast place. If we couldn't sleep, like if I was awake in the middle of the night and he was awake, we had an IHOP just down the street from the house we lived in at the time. We would at 3 a.m. go to breakfast. And so even up until, within the last year or so, I would say maybe about last summer is probably the last time I was able to make it like out to breakfast with him. Actually, maybe fall. But yeah, that was our thing. We just went to breakfast. I was actually just thinking about it today. I almost took myself to the breakfast place, but I was like, I don't think I'm ready for that yet, like to go alone. But on the funny story side, this one's not a favorite memory by any means. It actually gave me PTSD a little bit, but it is funny. So he was an auctioneer, right? And so, and as the auction industry evolved over the years, like basically auctions have gone pretty exclusively online, but back in the day, they were live auctions and he was doing his loud speaking and fast talking. Ooh, and that was another thing I always loved about him is he would teach us like tongue twisters because he went to auction school and I always thought that was like an interesting little thing. They taught him like tongue twisters. That's how they taught him to like speak fast. And so I still to this day like remember this crazy one. I love it so much. But anyway, so I was about 5 years old. I had a cousin who was maybe about a year or two younger than me. And so we were at this auction and there was a little like, you know, those little kid picnic tables, like a little type of like there's two benches on each side and then a little tabletop thing. There was one of those that was going up for sale and I didn't know that they were like moving. It was kind of like they were in a different section and they ended in that section and we're coming over to the section me and my cousin Taylor were sitting at this table that was getting ready to be sold. So he comes over and he starts selling the table and he says, and the two girls. So I'm 5 years old thinking my dad is trying to sell me and
They're
get
like,
rid
"What?"
of me. I think the man does not love me. I mean, it was traumatic. I literally like burst out in tears when he's just joking. Like and all the adults obviously know this, right? Like he was very obviously kidding, but to a 5-year-old, it was not obvious. So that's like my favorite memory
It's a
to
great
share just
memory.
because
Yeah.
it's like a funny story now. But yeah, he tried to sell me off when I was 5 years old at an auction.
Do you remember the sale price, Anna?
Probably not as much as I'm worth, to be honest.
Yeah. And what about lessons that for people? I don't think we touched on this, or maybe even it's more along the lines of advice for people that might be in your situation that have a lengthy diagnosis. They've given a time frame very different to your husband's sudden loss of his dad, but someone that might find themselves in your position. Whilst they're in the mud, whilst they're right in it, and then also past their loved one passing away, what advice would you give to someone in your position?
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by My Legacy Message. How do you want to be remembered? My Legacy Message provides a service that delivers a personalized keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass. My Legacy Message, be remembered.
Well, first I will say it is just the worst. I mean, it is hard, hard, hard. But looking back, it's such a precious time. And, I think there's going to be a level of anger with any loss. I mean, any loss. There's going to be a level of anger, but especially as you're enduring it, like it's gonna be hard, but if you let it be beautiful as well, it can be beautiful as well. And so, I think just, focus on the things that matter. For me, I've really, really noticed, and I'm sure you guys hear this with probably every conversation you guys have, is that when you lose someone, you just realize that some shit just does not matter. And so you really kind of have to be okay with that and you have to set a standard for yourself and like a level of tolerance and not be an asshole to people or anything like that, but like protect your peace and protect what matters. And when you know that you're running out of time, like that just changes how you see time in general. And so it really is, I mean, as much as it just sounds cheesy, it's like you have to just soak in the time. Like you have to. I made so many memories like in the last 3 months, in his hospice care days, just because we were spending so much time together. And, as much as I, again, want to remember all the good times before that, again, it's still so fresh and raw, but I do kind of have this hospice situation like seared into my brain for a while, and that's probably not gonna go away. But I think instead of, fighting it, I just want to embrace it because I don't want to forget like, you know, what he went through and what he pushed through and, just sitting there and, you with hospice, they tell you to prepare, right? This whole, have these conversations. We didn't have, I mean, personally, me and my dad, maybe my siblings did, I'm not sure, but like we didn't have really too many deep, meaningful conversations. At the end, when he was kind of unresponsive a little bit, like I told him things, thank you for being my dad, thank you for the great life, like all of those types of things, which was really important for me to say. But like, we were just sitting there for hours. Like, I mean, I spent hours with this man in his last 3 months, and we weren't having like these big, deep life conversations. We weren't talking about memories, and we weren't getting closure. We weren't, I'm not telling him that I'm still mad about when I blocked you on Facebook or anything like that. It was just time. And so don't like put any pressure on yourself to, have all these, don't even imagine how it's going to be. Don't try to prepare. Don't try to think that you have to have all these conversations or that it's going to look a certain way, because it's not. It's not going to look the way you want it to look when you're losing a parent, no matter how prepared you are, how well the nurses say that, what's happening or anything. Like, at least in my experience, it wasn't what I thought, and that is okay. Like, I'm at peace with that. Like, I have no resentment because like that just wasn't me and my dad. Like, we just didn't have like these deep heart to heart conversation. Like, I feel, and when he went into hospice, I kind of had this feeling of like, do I need to talk about, this or that or whatever? And I was like, I I genuinely don't think I do. And still to this day, I'm like, I don't hold any grudges. I don't have any resentments. Like, there wasn't anything like that that I wanted to, close the door on or make sure I had closure with. And, if you have something that needs to be said, obviously say it. But again, just I think early on in his hospice, I heard someone, I think it was following like a hospice nurse on Instagram or something. Someone said like it's not like this time, as much as it's allowing you time with them and you're gonna make memories and have lessons from it, like it's for them. And so it's like that was my thing, was just making those final months just all about my dad. Like, I didn't want to cause him any stress. I didn't want to cause him a burden. Like, I just wanted to be present and let him go with dignity and let him do what he wanted to do. And I think, I hope he did that as much as he could, as much as he felt up to it.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good piece of advice, Anna, because I think really depends on the relationship and the generation as well. I feel like our dad was a similar generation to your dad, and I think if I reflect back on our situation, potentially similar to yours, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would have been awkward to have those conversations for them,
Yeah.
and also for us. They weren't, our dad, and Luke can speak to this as well, wasn't that type of person to have those conversations. So it did a little bit go unspoken. So I think it's a good point that you raised. It is the time that is probably most important, rather than having, well, this is what you need to do because you have that time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Around preserving his legacy going forward, granted it's only been a short time since his passing, but how are there things that you and the family plan to do or like to do, or something that you've thought about, and how you'll remember your Pedro going forward?
I think it's with all the grandkids, and all of us kids in this big family, like his legacy is gonna live on, just because there's so many of us. If people were sick of him when he was alive, I mean, there's 12 more of us. No, I'm kidding. And so, yeah, I mean, we haven't really discussed or talked too much. He was cremated, but he was buried. So my mom's going to be buried with him, when her time comes. And it's right here in Wichita, which is good. And so, he was just, like I said, he was kind of soft spoken in a way. Like there wasn't a ton of traditions per se that we all had. I think we all kind of had our thing with dad. Like, mine was going to breakfast. I'm sure my siblings kind of had their things that they loved about dad or talking to dad with about and stuff. So it's just, keeping his memory alive and talking about him and making sure too that like the young kids, I think that's a big one is like like my nieces and nephews, I mean, they range from 2 to 18, but the older girls, like they have great memories. There's 16, 17, 18 for me, my daughter and my 2 older nieces, and then there's 4 younger ones. So I think it's, we want to keep their memory alive for them and make sure that they know, who he was and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's not uncommon, Anna. And I think a lot of the times it's the best way to continue to talk about them, even to the next generation as well, as young as they are. Mine are 4 and 6, or soon to be 4 and 6, and we talk about dad all the time, or their grandpa to them all the time. So, yeah, I think it's wonderful if you continue to do that, and your siblings continue to do that, or by default keep his memories and stories alive. One final question for you for the main part of the podcast. Often it's our hardest, so take care with this question. And also I'm mindful it's been a short period of time since his passing earlier this year. Pedro, if your dad was in front of you today, what would you say to him?
I think I would first tell him like I've missed him so much. But I would probably just repeat the same thing I said in his final days, which was just like, thank you for being my dad. Thank you for giving me life. I would choose you to be my dad in every lifetime. He was just always there for me, like, and all of us. If we had a flat tire, he'd be there in 15 minutes. If I had an issue with things at my business, he would be there in 15 minutes. Like, so just, thank you for always showing up. Like, thank you for always being there. And I understand now. I mean, I think I had this general idea, but I really, really understand it now that like that's a privilege. Like I truly understand that not everybody has that relationship with their dad. I've actually had I've been sharing my grief journey on Instagram, and my Instagram has kind of like blown up a little bit because of it. That's how I found you guys. And so, and I mean, the internet is a wild place. You guys know this, but I have just seen and heard so many stories at this point, good and bad, but so many stories. And I'm just like, I'm so lucky. Like and I never want that to be lost on me, like how amazing my dad was. And I'm sad a little bit that I didn't realize it earlier. Like I'm sad that it took cancer and his battle and all of these years for me to really truly, and losing him, to really truly see like the depths of this man's like commitment to his family. um he was just amazing. So again, I'm so grateful that I had that relationship. I'm so grateful that I had 33 years. I wish I would have had more. But again, you hear these stories of kids, never knowing their dads or losing their dad when they're like 10. I'm like, I can't imagine. I cannot fathom. And so it's just, kind of leading with this just gratitude for every moment. And I think like he had that too. So yeah.
Good point, Anna, and I'm sure again we touched on it earlier with the unspoken side of things that I'm sure Pedro would feel the same way. Being having that 30 years with you as his daughter and your other siblings, of course, and his wife, your mum as well. So we're grateful
5
as well.
years with her. So
Yeah. We're really grateful you giving up your time and joining us today. I'm sure that your story and your memories and also your experience, continue sharing it on Instagram. I believe you've got a much larger following than us with the things that you share. So continue doing that, and that'll keep Pedro's story alive as well. His memory is alive, but we're grateful for you coming on and sharing your story and memories of him and your experience as well. We're sure that it'll help someone else out there. So thank you very much for giving up your time today.
yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a privilege to be able to talk about him.
So Luke, that was Anna from Wichita,
That was great.
Kansas, in the
Thank
States.
you, Anna. Thank you, Pedro. I know exactly what he would have said. Said, don't effing cuss on social media.
Yes,
that's what
yes,
he
he
would
would
have
have. What a funny young lady, and obviously got that from her dad. He seemed like a very humorous man. Anna gave us some of his dad jokes in the Patreon, so that was cool to
tongue twisters.
hear about him there.
Got it all. That was a full package.
Yeah, it's really interesting hearing about her story and the time frame that they had in comparison. I guess they've lived both sides of it too, with her husband's dad dying suddenly. So it's really interesting hearing her aspect and things, especially. It sounds like a little bit different to her siblings as well. So thank you, Anna, for jumping on. We're really grateful you giving up your time and joining us on the podcast and sharing stories and memories of Pedro. Sound like a cool guy and a great dad.
I did forget to ask, but if Anna listens to this back, please comment or let us know. Was she the favorite? I have to know if she was the favorite.
Yeah,
I feel like yes.
She will say yes, but maybe her siblings can jump on as well and rebuke that. But we just did the tongue twister. And speaking of tongue twisters, we did talk about that in the Patreon as well. So Anna gave us the exact tongue twister that she'll remember forever, that Pedro taught her, that he got from auction school. So if you want to hear that, you do have to jump on Patreon, $6 a month US, about $9 a month Australian, to listen to those exclusive chats that we have. And I will say that one of the dad jokes was a little bit on the fence. So to get access to that, you have to they were great. You have to jump onto the Patreon, patreon.com/remembering them podcast, download the app as well. Exclusive access to those chats with our guests, but also we've got a lot of free content that come out weekly, and it's a way to support the podcast as well. So please jump on our Patreon. You can be for free, as I mentioned, for a lot of our free content as well. Reminder to give the podcast a rating and review, 5 stars ideally. Chuck a comment on there if you like, and share this episode if you enjoyed it, and also any of our other episodes as well, to family, friends, whoever that might be needing a grief conversation. It also helps us show up on anyone searching for a grief conversation. Reminder to follow us on all of our socials, Remembering Them podcast on all of our socials, Instagram being the main one, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. My Legacy Message is a service that we're in partnership with. My Legacy Message, to leave a video recorded message to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass, so that can be delivered to them. And I'm sure if Pedro had recorded one to Anna and the family, it'd be full of dad jokes and little life lessons.
Tongue twisters.
And one final reminder, BetterHelp, we have the partnership with BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/remembering them, to get 10% off your first month subscription with a credentialed therapist for whatever conversation you might need if you are struggling. Thank you, Luke, for joining me today. Unfortunately, Ryan not here with us, enjoying International World Croc Day. Enjoy your time out there with the Crocs, Ryan. Thank you, Luke, for joining me. Looking forward to the next conversation. That was a great one. Till next time. Bye.
Hey, right.
The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark, Ryan, and Luke are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several resources are available in Australia. Information about these services are available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact your loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.